Hi, it's Jane here to finally talk through the images that were submitted for our September challenge, End of Summer. It's very late again, I'm afraid, but I've had a number of big food and drink shoots in October, which have kept me very busy, but also kept the wolf from the door. I hope you're all keeping safe and well during these extremely strange times that we find ourselves in. Even though autumn has been mild so far, these warm summer days captured in a lot of these images seem a very long time ago. Since then, the lights changed, the days have got a lot shorter, and the leaves have all but dropped from the trees. So it was really nice, I thought, to look through these images and get a real sense of the feeling of end of summer, and for me it actually felt quite nostalgic, and I think perhaps especially as we weren't in lockdown at that time. So sit back and enjoy this selection of my favourite images.
Okay, so Alan Hewitt posted quite a few beautiful images for this theme, as usual, and I've included two that really, for me, suited the end of summer theme. Now, key elements that go into excellent photographs are beautiful light, which of course we have here, colours that really work well together. So here we've got the lovely rich orange, the green, and the beautiful blue sky. Simplicity, which of course again the simplicity and punch of those colours, but also the simplicity of the scene, and then also a sense that the scene is three-dimensional. It could have felt quite flat and 2D, but the way that the steep humps work, if you can look, the way that they're sort of, you can really tell that this is forming a hump, that makes it feel 3D. And then we've got this tree positioned just about on a third, and the way that the tree breaks up above the horizon here is fantastic. If it's below or above, that's fine, but if your subject touches the horizon, then that is not so good and it would feel quite disturbing. So that's a lovely image, Alan, thank you. Then we have the second of the images by Alan that I selected. The story is what really appeals to me here. Who hasn't been stuck behind tractors at harvest time, impatient to overtake and get past? So it's a quick snapshot by its very nature, because you've not got any time to do much other than shoot, but Alan has still managed to get great framing and timing. And the bits of hay flying off the trailer add to a great sense of speed and movement. So for me, even though it's a quick snapshot, Alan's managed to maintain a feeling of balance with the truck and the car on thirds. So if you sort of split this image into thirds, you've just more or less got a feeling of balance between the trailer and the car. Bit of a hard one to explain with balance, but there's definitely a sense of it in this image by having both of the main components of subjects positioned as they are. This image does feel a little underexposed to me though, Alan, that's the only point I would make. But great story, made me smile. We have quite a different feel now in this shot by Jill Morgan. It's a much closer study and it's of corn. It's got quite a tight square crop which keeps our eye firmly on the subject. It can't wander off very much to the left or the right. And our subject is this corn sheathed in its leaves with its lovely rust-coloured beard on the top of it, which I think is really makes the image. It adds something that without it, it might look, feel a little bit more bland or less interesting. So that beard is a really lovely splash of sort of warm rusty colour. There's lots of lovely texture in this, in the leaves surrounding the corn itself, wrapped around it, and then also in that lovely leaf on the left, we've got all those wavy green lines with the light shining through that particular leaf as well, really highlighting those, and some good shadows as well. So tricky light to work with, but that in itself is what makes some of the image with those shadows and highlights. But it is overexposed in a few areas, so you need to watch out for that. So this area here is really overexposed, and this area here Hope you can see that because I'm using white on white there. So watch out for those harsh areas of sunlight in your shot. Now they can be quite tricky to deal with. Either you've got to really underexpose the whole shot and then edit it later to bring up those darker areas, or you can position yourself to cast a shadow, but that would perhaps change the feel of the whole shot because it's going to alter the light. So in this particular image, just to save it quickly, I would perhaps crop out the worst offending area, so maybe do a crop somewhere down here, which would get rid of that. It might also get rid of this slightly distracting area there, and then if you wanted to maintain the square, you could take a little bit off the top and the bottom and you still have your square image. So really liked that shot, Jill. Just a little bit of an issue with a tiny issue with the exposure there. This is a beautiful image by Graham Jackson, one of my personal favourites this time. It's a complete change in colour palette from what we've just been looking at, and I think in terms of everything else we do look at in this particular set of images. The warm burgundies and purples in this shot are beautiful, and again there's a square crop here which really focuses your eye on the seed and the leaf, the subject. This square tight crop really again stops your eye from wandering anywhere else and just makes a real hero focus of the subject. And that seed head there just kind of almost looks like a moth, doesn't it? It almost looks living. I mean, I know it is living if it's kind of, but it really looks like it could just fly away. Actually, it looks like wings, and I think that's kind of really that feeling is really helped by the textures, and the details on this are so beautifully captured. And I think something that's very hard to do, but you've managed it here, Graham, is you've captured those textures so well that you can feel them. You almost feel like you could stroke that image and feel exactly what that's going to look like. So many things I love about this image, and a really minor point, the only thing I might change about it is this highlight in the back here and here. Just use a brush perhaps to slightly soften it so that it just recedes a little bit more into the background, and your eye doesn't go to it, which it does slightly. But honestly, really beautiful image that I would be happy to print and have on my wall. So lovely job there, Graham. We have a really clever image here by Ginny Dex. It's the light and the reflection that works so well, and of course the story of back to school, which is perfect for the end of summer. The misuse sign almost gets missed. It's lost a little bit in shadow, and in post you could lighten that very slightly, and it wouldn't look too fake, but you'd just perhaps have that a little bit more noticeable. And I mean, I'm nitpicking really here, Ginny, because I do like the image, but you could have a little bit more of a sense of movement by having your daughter more in mid-step, sort of a little bit further forward and just about going out of the door. But as I said, I mean, I'm just nitpicking because I think this is a fun image which you've executed in great light, and you've used reflections brilliantly, and I wish my floors were that shiny. Then we've got this shot by Kate Riley, which Finding Conkers. I mean, you know, is there anything that says end of summer more to us? I love the framing. Again, this is a square crop, a square image, and which really suits this shot. Again, you know, you're getting this feeling that there's nowhere to go but on the subject. That square framing is quite a powerful way of doing things. And obviously it doesn't suit everything, and you shouldn't use it every time, but the way we're seeing it used in several shots on this challenge has just really worked. I love the story in this shot. There's a real sense of pride and look, mum, look what I found, isn't this a beauty? You've put the focus on the conker absolutely perfectly. I really like the depth of field, but it's you know, it's not so shallow that you can't see his face and his expression and how pleased he is to have found this. The conker is sharp, the light's good, and for me it's a strong, fun shot that is bang on theme. So thanks, Kate. Here we have more conkers from Catherine Hall this time, but quite a different take on them. And this shot again, I really like it. It's quite a simple composition. It's got perfect depth of field, which is really reducing anything that's in the background just to a beautiful, vivid shade of green, nature in all its glory, really. I really like the sort of the fan shape of the leaves, you know, the way that they sort of fan out like this, and you can see it still in the ones here as well. So they've still got that lovely fan shape, but you've got the decay setting in you know, and that brings out then some additional interesting texture and colour to it. Just nature's palette of colours is wonderful, isn't it? The grouping of three conkers is perfect. We like threes and odd numbers. It appeals to us visually. And the only thing I would say here, Catherine, is to do a slight crop somewhere along here, or have cloned these bits out a little bit, purely because it's such a strong colour against the green that your eye goes to it. It looks at this main area and then it goes off to those areas in the corner there. So slight improvement could be made there, but again, as I said, I do like this image. This shot really does it for me, Catherine Hall. I really liked it. It's very clever. It's a perfect panning shot showing movement with the blur in the foreground and background, and the blur of the harvest coming out the back end of the harvester. And then this very crisp vehicle. So it's harvesting in action, and it's so clever. I really liked it. And then the scale of the harvester versus the man that's driving it, a huge great machine. And then you've got the composition really good as well. I love the three bands of colour in the background, and you know, it all just ticked every box for me. I mean, some people might have an issue with the harvester feeling like it's moving too fast, because panning usually denotes speed. So you could have a sense that it is moving very fast, but I didn't read it like that, and I didn't have a problem with it. I just think it's so clever and so beautifully executed. So I really like this, Catherine. Well done. I love the juxtaposition of these two shots. The one that just went before, Catherine's, was all modern farming, speed, efficiency, mass production, wasn't it? A really different scale and feel. Whereas Linus's shot here could be a different era, couldn't it? It could be 100 years ago. It's old world, it's timeless, it's small scale farming, traditional, slow paced, tranquil. It's totally different, but the two shots could sit so well together, couldn't they, to tell a different story. So in this shot, I mean, the light is beautiful. The early morning mist with the sun just breaking through and just starting to put some highlights onto the tractor here and onto the whatever this piece of machinery is at the back. So just giving it enough definition and interest that we know what it is, and it draws our eye to it. But you've just got the sort of then the simple sort of muted colour palette and the softness and feel, the tranquil feel of this image. So I really liked it, Linus. Very clever shot, great find, well done. It's great how different people interpret the theme, isn't it? So here we've got jam making at the end of the summer, another great interpretation. And we've got the tradition of picking blackberries, or as Marie, who is Scottish, calls them brambles. And they're freshly picked, it's homemade. The story is very much about that. The colours and the light are lovely, all those sort of burgundies and sort of fruity colours. But for me, the bright green apple in the background is too much, and you just don't need it. Take that away and you'd have a lovely strong shot. And I really like the jam on the spoon as well. So great interpretation, Marie. I found this a really interesting image, and I do really like it. To me, it's got lots of different layers, both in when you look at it and you've got the different layers of the foreground, the middle ground, and the background, but also in how you interpret it. So the colour palette works really nicely for me, and there's obviously filters been used, but they work, they look attractive. But there's lots of things about this image that actually make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, or they're kind of out of kilter, but somehow so inherently British, because the end of the summer does, for some people, on some days, in some places, look like this. It's very typical, isn't it, of a British summer. It's a bit chilly, it's not the perfect beach weather, it's not the perfect location, you've not necessarily got the perfect sort of endless blue sea to the horizon. You've got what looks like cold, possibly North Sea, but still we are determined to go in the sea. And then there you've got the mother and son relationship inferred here, with her tightly holding, I mean, it could be an older sister, but it looks like mum to me, and tightly holding his hand, and he looks frozen, doesn't he? And then you've got the footsteps leading into the water here. So it's not their footsteps, but it doesn't matter. Someone else has also been mad enough to go into that sea. So I really like this. I'm just going to show you a little bit as well about the composition. So you've got your rule of thirds. Maybe I should use a different colour. You've got your rule of thirds going on here. You've got a leading line going on here that kind of infers it's going to them, and then you've got them right in the centre. So you've got a very symmetrical image in a lot of ways. Sorry to scribble all over your image, Nicole, but I do really like it. So although you've got your rule of thirds here, your subject does not have to be, you've got your rule of thirds in the background, but your subject does not have to be on a third necessarily. In this image, it really works and is very impactful to have your subject straight in the centre there. It can often infer, by having your subject in the centre and smaller like that, a sense of space and emptiness, which that works here as well, because you kind of think that they're the only people in the sea at the moment, because the sea is cold and no one else wants to be in there. So many lovely things working about this, and I'm sure, Nicole, if you're anything like me, you don't spot all of that at the time. You just spot a good image and you take it, and then you can perhaps work out afterwards why it's worked so well. But you were really right with your instincts on this, that this image does work well, and is one of my favourites. Everyone has such great imaginations, don't they? This is another shot with several layers going on by Ray Fung here. So we have this beautiful evening light, that really lovely golden light that is particularly strong when it's been a bit stormy or showery. So you've got the rich warm colours in the foreground, and then you've got this very dramatic sky in the background here. So you've got a good split between the two there. And then you've not actually got any human figure in the shot, but you've got the shadow of a human figure that tells the story of a man pausing on a bike ride to take a picture because it is so beautiful. So you've got these long shadows that really tell a story of what time of day it is and what's happening. And then it just so happens as well that this is a really good, strong, triangular shape of the man that's paused, well, it's Ray, isn't it, paused on his bike. And again, another rule of composition is that we do really like triangles because they're such a strong, recognizable shape for the human mind. Yeah, look out for triangles in shots. I also really like the shadow of the tree here, and then the way that takes your eye up to the branches, the golden leaves here, just framing the top of the shot. So you know, and even somehow these fences going across here work as well, don't they? They don't interrupt the shot. They just kind of somehow become part of the bands of and layers in this shot. So yeah, again, very clever, Ray. I should perhaps have put this shot by Sheena alongside Jill's shot of the corn that was still growing in the field, shouldn't I? This is a completely different study of an opened corn cob. It's got beautiful sunny yellows in it, lots of textures and lines and repeating patterns. And it's a much simpler shot. We haven't got a story or context as such compared to some of the shots that we've just looked at recently, where we felt like we were peeling away the layers of the story. But equally, you could see this on the wall of a farm shop promoting the goodness, the bounty of the British harvest, couldn't you? So a lovely but very different study for end of summer. So now to my favourite shot for the theme of end of summer. This is by J. Ashworth, and I'm just going to tell you the story first. I'm sure you kind of know what it is anyway, but let me just talk it through. It's the cows trudging home at the end of the day. Harvesting is done. Summer is drawing to a close, and it's slow, it's calm, it's lazy, with this lovely warm end of day, end of summer feel to the light. So what I like about it is a very simple shot in terms of what's in it, but you know, in terms of capturing it, maybe not so simple. You know, spotting it in the first place and then framing it in that way and potentially editing it a little bit. I'm not sure, Jay. But you've got this muted colour palette. It's almost monochrome, isn't it? Where it's all made up of kind of warm orangey browns. It's very minimalist. You've just got the cows and you know, a very muted background. So it goes with the rule of thirds here. You've got your you've got almost 3 layers in the background here, and then you've got your cows on the intersection of the thirds there as well. So it pleases the eye, and it's calming, and the brain likes where things are positioned. And then this little cow here just kind of adds to it. It balances it out somehow, leaving that area of the shot not empty. It's not quite on a third. If you were going to be, you know, your other third would be there, but we're not talking about exactness in these rules. We're talking about just general principles. So you've got you sort of cows, you get the feeling they're walking this way, and they're going to probably meet up with that cow over there. I'm probably going on a bit too much now, aren't I? Seeing things that aren't there, but that's what I like about this image. I mean, it's always so hard to pick. I mean, you know, every image I've gone through here I've really praised, haven't I? So you can imagine how hard it is to pick a favourite. So these 15 or 14 images that are in this slideshow were all favourites of mine, but I think that this one just nudged above the others in its overall sort of feel for me. So well done, everybody. Thank you so much for submitting your images, and I hope you've all found this critique useful, and look forward to talking to you about the next set of images, which is backlight.